Well, hello, YouTube. Today we're going to be taking a look at, I say they're one of my favorite knives, but I think they're all my favorite knives. We're going to be taking a look at a Great Eastern Cutlery 71 Bullnose knife from their Farm and Field Tool Series that's owned by Great Eastern Cutlery. I'm going to give you a look at the box. They show you a little farm scene, a hunting scene, and tell you that they are 1095 work knives. We'll look at the top here. You'll see some numbers. 71 5115 black linen micarta. Now, if you were to delve into these numbers, what that basically means is that it's a 71 pattern. The 5 has to do with the cover materials. The one that comes after that tells you how many blades this knife has, and it has one blade, and it was made back in 2015, and obviously black linen micarta. They want you to know that. Anyway, here we are taking a look at the knife. This is the Great Eastern Cutlery Bullnose. It is a fantastic little knife. I really like it. Here you can read some of the marks on the blade. Great Eastern Cutlery owns several brands, and in fact, here you can see it says Great Eastern Cutlery, GEC, and then that TIW stands for Titusville Iron Works. And I've said it before in another video, but basically what Great Eastern Cutlery does is they build knives from the early days, early to mid 1800s, and they build them with the exact same quality and actually on the same machines. That they were steam-powered machines, and they've converted them over to electricity. So you're getting a time capsule knife. You're getting a really great knife that was built like a knife from that era. This, at the time when you could get these readily, was from a kind of a more affordable series. But even though it was a little more affordable, and by affordable, I do not mean cheap, because they are not, but it was a little more affordable than some of their other knives. But you were getting a fantastic knife, and if you had this knife in your pocket for your do everything only knife that went in your pocket, you'd be doing pretty good, especially for the minimalist. This knife is simple in design. I reviewed a Case Sodbuster Junior on here, and this knife is similar to that, but it's a little, I think in some ways it's even a little more Spartan, but it is better built. This is a fantastically built knife. We'll give you a close-up look at the micarta. I have used this knife. I've said this before, but every knife in I wouldn't call it a collection, I'd call it my accumulation. I use all of them. There's a look at the back spring. You can see that, once again, not to sound too redundant here, but this is a very well-built knife. And that's all I try to buy, There's your pivot. Unlike the case knife had a big brass polished pivot. This one looks a little more rustic, but it is a very solid pivot. This knife, unlike the Case Sodbuster, had to do it off camera here, does have half stops. And what that means is when you open and close the knife, it'll stop halfway, kind of a little break there. And what I have read, what that basically does is kind of act as a semi-safety. So if you're using the knife and it goes to close on you, it's going to have one more piece of interference before it actually would cut your finger. Although this knife has a very strong back spring, so it is unlikely, and if you actually know how to use a knife and you're not a Neanderthal, you are probably not going to cut yourself. About a 99% chance that you are not going to cut yourself with this knife if you use it properly. This knife is a 1095 steel, which is a high carbon steel, so it will patina, which it has. You can see that patina is not forced. That is a patina that came from using this thing to cutting whatever I want and not really paying attention to it. The only thing I do is after I'm done cutting, I clean it off, wipe it off, If I don't have any water or anything handy, I just wipe the blade off. When I get home, I'll kind of wash it in case there's something stuck to it that didn't come off real easy. But other than that, I just use the knife and enjoy it. Here's a look at the other side here. You can see the markings, Great Eastern Cutlery Titusville Iron Works. And then I think it's cool, they, even though it's kind of a simple pivot, they mark it with their Farm and Field USA. That's kind of neat. Like I said, this knife has half stops, and it does have a pretty strong backstring. I'll give you a listen to that snap. Boom. See that? Now that is a bear trap. If you would have your finger in the way when you shut that knife, it is more than likely going to cut you. They got a thing called a pull weight, and that's just basically when you open the knife, how much, hear that snap? How much effort it takes to open up the knife. And I would give this a pull weight of a 7 to 8, and that is out of 10. I think, at least by my definition, if you were to go to 10, you would need to stand on something and pull it. That's a pretty, ridiculously strong pull. 7 or 8 is a very strong pull. Not where you couldn't do it, but I mean, you do got to put a pretty good amount of effort into opening the blade. That flies in the face of modern tactical folders, where you want to get a knife out in 1/10 of a second. That's not what this knife is made for. It is made to, once you open it up, to stay open, and once you close it, to stay closed. And obviously, it does not have any kind of locks, any kind of opening assist, any kind of thing. It is just a very simple knife. And this knife harkens back to some of the earliest designs of pocket knives. Even knives that were carried by the Romans. They carried a kind of a form of clasp knife, which is a knife like this, only it doesn't have a back spring. And what kept the knife shut was just the pressure of the way the scales were built. And it would put pressure up in this area where the blade went into the frame of the knife. And that friction, thus the name friction folder, is what kept the knife closed. And then what kept the knife open was it would have a little tab built back here that your hand would rest on. And while you were using it, it couldn't close because your hand covered that little tab. And then I don't know what year, because I'm not a super good historian, but they came up with the back spring, and that back spring does all the work for it. Keeps the knife open, keeps the knife closed. And at its time, it was a really good innovation. But if you are looking for a simple, sturdy, do-everything knife, this is going to be the ticket for you. Now, these knives are pretty hard to find. The Great Eastern Cutleries, they didn't used to be, and they used to be relatively affordable. Now, it is almost impossible to find them. But if you look, and if you find any of them, this one you are more likely to find than a lot of them. For whatever reason, they made a little bit more of these, and they were just easier to find. I've had this knife since 2015. I got it right when it came out. I think this knife comes in red, and it comes in a plain linen micarta, which is sort of an off-white brownish color. And I think it came in some other cover materials, but this is just super plain. It is black linen micarta, and it is a very durable, rugged material, and it is great for knife handles. Like I said, I have used this knife for all kinds of stuff. When you buy a knife, some people buy them for different reasons. I buy them to carry them. I buy them because I like them. Part of the enjoyment is not just looking at them, but part of the enjoyment for me is to use them. And when I take a knife out of my pocket and I use it, I get some enjoyment out of just looking at it a little bit, at before or after. If you're in a hurry, obviously not, but every time I take this out of my pocket, I admire its simplicity and how well built it is. Let's take a look up here at the top. Look at the centering. See that? They do there we go. It is perfectly centered, which is not a small feat. I think they did a great job. There are no gaps. There are no flaws. There are no any imperfections in the knife. And when I got it, it was beautiful and dead mint. It had a pretty cool little etching on the blade. It was of a little bull. Actually, you can see it on the cover here of the knife. It was this thing right here. Had that etching on the blade, and it said bullnose on either side of it. And that was pretty cool. I'm not a fan of blade etchings, and I'm not against blade etchings, but when they're present and they're done right, I like them. But I like it when a knife looks like this. It's just plain, simple, no adornments. It's just made to use. And I think when Bill Halbert came out with this design, I think that's what he was shooting for. Just, a really, not an homage, but an actual knife built for the purpose of what the knife was called. It is a basic farm and field tool. If you were going to go do any kind of work, you could throw this in your pocket and it would get it done. The steel is relatively easy to sharpen. They do a wonderful job on the heat treat. 1095, while it is not a super steel, it is a great steel that has been getting it done for a long time. It's a high carbon steel. A knife like this, you are going to have to take some care. You don't have to get ridiculous about it, but you are going to have to take some care. Like I said, when you're done using it, if you're cutting, whatever you're cutting, you're going to want to wipe it off. But you'd probably do that anyway. And every once in a while, you want to oil up the pivot. Not a whole lot, just a little oil, not too much, so it doesn't attract dirt or anything. And maybe a little light coat of oil. If you're going to be using this for food, I would not use a petroleum-based product, but I would use something safe. Some people say not to use it, but I use olive oil. They say, oh, it'll go rancid. I don't know. I use it, and it's worked fine. I got some knives that I have stopped the patina on, but this one, sorry I had to open it off camera here. This one, I let it form a natural patina. I didn't do anything to it. I just... when I was done, I wipe it off, and I have it, sometimes the patina grows and it becomes really dark. Sometimes it fades out a little bit. I don't really pay attention to it. I just use it, and I wipe it off and I take care of it. Anyway, like I said, if you can find one of these, Great Eastern Cutlery Bullnose, and they have, I forgot what it's called now. Anyway, it's the full size version of their sodbuster, and it's a little bigger than this, but I think this is the ideal size. It's about the size of a Case Sodbuster Junior, maybe a little bit longer. I haven't got them side by side, but I do like to carry it. I got so many knives, I throw different ones into the rotation, but every knife that I bought, obviously I buy the stuff I like, and if I don't like them, I sell them or I'll give them to somebody, a friend of mine, or we'll trade or whatever. But I try to get knives that I like, and this is one of them. This is definitely an excellent knife that I have enjoyed having in my collection / accumulation. Anyway, that's been a look at the Great Eastern Cutlery 71 Bullnose and black linen micarta. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have one of these and you want to talk about it, let me know. And just another quick little tidbit here for those of you that don't know. You can get on Great Eastern Cutlery's website, and you can look at the year of your knife, obviously the year that it was made, and you can look at production totals, and it'll tell you how many knives of a certain pattern and a certain style were made in that year. Sometimes there was 100, sometimes there was 50. You don't know, but it'll tell you there's not a lot, and it'll tell you how many of these knives were made. And even when Great Eastern Cutlery was relatively new on the scene, you could buy a lot of their knives, but these knives, as soon as they came out, people snapped them up quickly. And you'd think they'd get some of the fancier high-end ones, but this knife has always been popular, and it remains really popular in the Great Eastern Cutlery line, just because of the beauty and simplicity, because of the sheer utilitarian nature of this knife, because, it is what it is. It is just a great tool, and it's I've enjoyed owning it. Anyway, if you have any questions or you want to talk about your knife or anything like that, let me know down below. If you like this video or you like my kind of just talking off the top of the head style of knife review, give me a like. That would be great. I'm trying to grow this channel, but like I said, the main purpose of this channel is to talk about knives for and with people that love knives. You know, not a collector. I'm just a guy who really, really loves knives. Anyway, we will talk to y'all later. Thank you for watching and have a great day.